And then I guess a final question on home run is that what is the problem you're trying to solve both for the buyer and for the homeowner?
Sure. So let's talk about the seller, the home seller. So home seller, if you want to sell your home in the United States today, it's an incredibly laborious process. It takes a long period of time and is extremely expensive. So the average time on market in the United States is over 90 days. So from the time you literally list your home to when the sale happens is over a quarter. That, let alone the research part or the consideration part or the post-sale process. So it's very long. It's very expensive. It costs between 6 and 9% of the transaction to sell your home. And it's kind of a painful process. You have these open houses and people walk through your home and you have to be gone, especially if you have kids. You can't be there when you're having this open house. So it's incredibly destructive and distracting. So painful, expensive, distracting, massive market. 5.7, even with all this friction, 5.75 million people sell their homes every year. So all those things together, scream for a solution. So what we're going to do is make it as simple as snapping your fingers. I have this dream commercial one day where we're going to do a 24-hour commercial, like the show 24 with Keith Rabois, sort of narrating, saying, this transaction occurs in real time, and actually shows someone start and finish their home sale, like in the commercial. So that's my dream. And I think that will resonate with real people. So for example, if you're trying to, the American dream has always been to upgrade your home. So as you have more kids, as you have more wealth, you try to get bigger, better homes, better schools. And so that's a very complicated finesse dance that people have to do. So you buy your new home, you sign a contract, but to get the mortgage on the new home, you actually have to sell your old home, and you have a very small window of time, and people are stressed and it's complicated. So we can make this simple. You buy your new home whenever you want, you close out of your old home whenever you want, and you move out whatever day you like, and we'll have the money in your bank account. So I think that's a really attractive value proposition that's going to resonate. Secondly, there's people who have to move. So for example, I may get offered a job in Seattle, I may need to relocate, I may go to Dallas. So we're allowing liquidity, which actually is a healthy thing for the economy as a whole. Job and labor markets right now are fairly non-liquid. And imagine if you could just move whenever you wanted without a lot of hassle. Would the labor shift to the right place, the high growth areas, and would that create a net higher growth rate for the US economy? Possibly yes.
And so final question on this is more a little bit away from home run and more in sort of our backyard. What's your view on the housing, growth in the valley? Let's say there's San Francisco and then all the Silicon Valley and surrounding areas. Do you think it's on a sustainable path? Do you think it's going to go through hard times? Do you think the floor has been risen and it's just going to be harder and harder to buy here? You must have looked at tons of data. What's your view on the market?
Well, obviously, the San Francisco Bay Area housing market is incredibly anomalous. As I always start my conversations about home run, the median home in the United States is worth $250,000. So it's an order of magnitude sort of off of Bay Area expectations. So we just live in a completely world that's divorced from reality for most Americans. In the Bay Area, I think the solution maybe to increase housing inventory. Of course, there's a lot of complexity with doing that from environmentalists, from people who are pre-existing homeowners in San Francisco particularly. One thing that has occurred to me is I cannot imagine that people and companies don't migrate to Oakland. So Oakland is a 12 to 15 minute commute from downtown San Francisco. Yeah. It has actually more attractive weather. Yeah. It's closer to Berkeley, which is a reasonable school. Athletic program's pretty weak, but the school itself is fine. But in any event, all of the right dynamics of being a healthy alternative to San Francisco with very reasonable real estate prices at the moment relative to the rest of the Bay Area. So I think that will alleviate some pressure, especially if they can get their sort of crime and city government under control. It's a very interesting opportunity. San Jose, there's a lot of real estate down in San Jose that's relatively affordable, but it's a very long commute vis-a-vis San Francisco, less so from Palo Alto and Menlo Park. So I don't know if that's as interesting an option, but I think Oakland could be there could be a renaissance in Oakland. Look at what's happening in Las Vegas with the stuff that Tony's doing, turning downtown Vegas into a startup hub. If you can do that there's no reason Oakland doesn't.
And it seems like it takes that type of Tony Shea, takes that type of, New York. I can't remember the guy in New York who did this. The famous historical figure. I can't remember.
Robert Morris.
Robert Moe.
I think Moses or something like
Moses,
that. But
yeah.
yeah, brain's atrophying these days.
Yeah.
But yeah, like someone with energy and passion, Oakland should be the second best place in the world to start a company, and maybe even one day the best place in the world.